You can't talk about Triple X without talking about the action. I live for this shit. They're not just stunts for the sake of stunts. They speak to a characteristic of Xander, his style.
As a filmmaker, you want to present the audience seen before or familiar items used to.
We wanted to capture the idea that these scenes were going to be filmed in a chaotic way, as though we couldn't quite keep up with the action.
A lot of the action set pieces that we have are very ridiculous. A guy skiing through a jungle with no snow on the ground, motorcycles racing across water. But I'm very proud of the fact that these are all actually things that athletes have been able to do. And so it was really about finding the coolest, craziest stuff that we could do that still had a layer of reality to it.
Role in defining this world and defining this character. That's what's so wonderful about extreme sports, in the sense that these athletes are doing things that
Very early on, I saw this jungle gym skiing that was done by the Sweetgrass Productions. These crazy, crazy dudes up in, I think they're in Oregon, and they're fantastic. And so I got in touch with them and said, like, how did you do this? You know, because I saw this video of them skiing through a jungle, and he was saying one day he was skiing and he was in the snow, and a friend of his took a picture, and when they took the picture, because he was going in the middle of the jungle, you didn't see any of the snow on the ground. So we kind of had this fantasy about creating this jungle gym skiing. And so I thought, when you think you meet Xander on this sort of life-saving mission, when you're being reintroduced to him 15 years later, he's on the top of this tower, and I've always wanted to do a tower jump, sort of free jump in a tower. This tower, which I think is 380 feet. How do we introduce Xander? And then we thought, okay, and then how do we complete that? How do we get him down to that village down in Salinas? And we thought, okay, let's get this longboard sequence, because we had seen some longboarders now. Vin had sent me some video of some guys going 70 miles an hour on a longboard down the hill in Navarrete.
This motorcycle sequence, literally huge jungle rape on the biggest stage they have in Canada. 300 extras and DJ going off and just all these different levels of dirt and stone and everything. And then all of a sudden, Red Eric and the bad guys, 2 helicopters fly over, they rappel out. There's a giant, one of the biggest. Takes out all of these bad guys using his motorcycle like you've never seen before. I mean, whipping it, backflipping, kicking people, just craziness. We had the specialists that could do all the nose wheels, like a trials rider. And that's how he makes his living. He's a trials rider, and he does all kinds of insane stuff on his bike.
So, Van, give a quick look over here. Yep. And then look at him and go, because you're going to take him out and then her. Action! Go get him! Perfect. You pulled up the carpet.
You know, and then we needed a guy for Donnie, who we found here, to do his style of riding. And then we had a motocross guy that could do the lower jumps and knacks and all that kind of freestyle stuff. We've used multiple people and trick guys, specialists, to maybe fit one guy's action scene.
when you see him fighting with, we were able to come up with this new fighting style called MXMA, so it's motocross martial arts.
Well, if you look closely when it's going to the jungle, you'll see these things would, as you're riding, would flap out like that, and they would push forward by the front tire and flop out, and you could drive right onto the water if you're Robbie Madison.
Having Robbie Madison come in and help us create, these stunts that you've never seen before was just truly so wonderful to watch and be part of. I think that was really the bar for the movie, which was, how do we do something that audiences haven't seen before? And that's the promise of Xander Cage.
It's been good, it's been fun, it's been excessive, it's action. My fear is I in the Dominican Republic and I have to climb up a tree, horizontally walk up a tree like it's something that I do every Tuesday, and then pretty much drop down. And so I was really petrified about doing that stunt. And it was 5 in the morning or something, you know, it was like after a pretty long day.
Triple X3, the return of Xander Cage, is just bigger and better. It's pumped and it's amped. I just think filmmaking has, you know, as all things should, grown and come such a long way, and all of those techniques have gone into this film. I don't know how the stunt guy did it. He had to jump through a pane of glass and then kind of roll onto the ground, up onto the table, and grab this device, Pandora's box. And I was nervous just standing there in the foreground. And in watching it back, there's actually a real kind of beauty to it. It looked like water falling. It was just the best of the best people doing it, and it's so well choreographed, and it's quite fascinating. You know, they're quite balletic in the way that they move, and I find it really little kind of flying fox stunt was awesome. Legendary.
Fortunately, you know, I do have a built-in ability with that stuff, so I was able to help out with the choreography and give my own little flair.
Working with the people that we are working with, Michael Bisping, Tony Jaa, Donnie Yen, I've never seen people move so fast, but they move in very, very different ways, and they have very, very different styles, so their fights are designed with them in mind.
Type of film. A lot of people watched my film before, so I already know that they probably study my works, and which they did. When I came in, they were very respectful, and they were asking for my opinions, but I kept my hands off, you know, and see what they come up with, and I put my stamp in while doing it, you know, working my way in, you know, through each day of collaborations.
A guy like Donnie Yen, his tempo is unbelievable. He is so fast.
We're sometimes saying, Donnie, slow down a little bit so at least the viewer can see what you did, or give this more emphasis. Otherwise, they may miss just how fantastic this was. The way he fights has, because some things are going to go by so fast. This person is an artist, and he's been doing this for so long, and his ideas that he brings to his fights are so good, you don't want to miss them.
And I add this and add that without realizing I changed everything. You know, it just became, oh, wait a minute. So, but that's the whole idea. That's the fun of acting. You know, it's like that is the process of being creative and being an artist in movie making.
I think it's the first time you really get to see kind of the Hong Kong style fighting in a big American blockbuster film, and that was really a credit to both as they got together on this fight choreography and how to do it.
It's not just about martial arts ability, it's not just about physical capability, it's about understanding your camera, understanding how to draw attention.
He has guys he spends months with basically nobody, and we have to provide a team of fighters that he actually fights that can handle his tempo. That's nerve-wracking, because he doesn't have months and years with these guys that we're putting in front of him. And everybody held up pretty good. He actually complimented the guys how they were doing.
Go!
The zero-G sequence, to me, I really like the challenge of it. How do you get zero-G to work in the airplane and do fights and shoot? You had Donnie Yen in there, and the very second I landed here in Toronto, that's the first thing I started working with. The art department and construction, how are we gonna build a plane that can facilitate all the wire work and all the rigs, and how we're gonna divide the plane up and how lighting's gonna work.
That was a combination of wires coming down. And the most difficult part for all of us was not getting our wires tangled, because there's so many guys. It's not one-on-one in zero G. It's 1 against 5, or it's 4 against 2, and the choreography is really difficult. And sometimes, you know, a guy might a certain aspect from his back and his sort of down near his torso, and then another time we might have someone on a plate that can be a spin plate or a spin rig. So there was a couple different rigs that we incorporated depending on what the action was in the zero G. And having that in the field of the camera, it was a combination of all those elements.
I got some 8711 guys, and 8711 is like the premier fight team out there, and they shoot and they edit and they come up with these unbelievable fight sequences. So beyond the choreography, I mean, I know those guys could come up with great choreography. It was to find the look that looked like we were zero G. You had to get multiple people in the air sometimes, you know, 5 to 7 people all at the same time. And that's where Corbin came in with his team of people. And sometimes to just run that zero G sequence would take about 17 riggers, all doing very him down this way. We movie. The front part of the plane, the data center, is where Vin Diesel and Tony Gonzalez do their fight, along with 4 other guys. Their fight gravitates towards the cockpit in the front of the plane where the bathroom is. So those 2 big dudes, I'm talking big dudes, end up busting through the bathroom door and do their fight, flipping upside down. Eventually the toilet gets broken, so there's a whole suction that goes on, and Vin uses that suction to shove Tony Gonzalez out to the toilet. So that was a tough one. Working with Vin, you want to make sure that there's a trust with the people that are setting up the stunt. It doesn't have to just be Vin, but Vin's very particular.
Action! Bang!
It's Vin Diesel, you know, I mean, the guy's been there, done that, got it all in the action world. He really has, and this is a guy that does have a background in, you know, combat sports. You know, he knows jiu-jitsu, he's good at Thai boxing, you know, he knows what he's doing, you know. Yes, of course he's acting, but in a real-life situation, the guy could handle himself. So he certainly brings a level of authenticity.
We're up 50,000 feet, and the plane is nosediving, and so everything is zero gravity, and we're fighting around, trying to kill each other. It was just cool because I got to get strapped up and be a stunt man, hanging out with Bobby Brown, who's a legend, and all the other stunt guys that I was working with. Years, I can do this. At the end of the scene, I got these exo gloves, which actually you put on these gloves and they give you this super strength or whatever. When you hit things, it explodes. And I'm trying to chase Vin around the whole plane, and so I'm on 2. There was actually 3 pairs. 2 of them are made with plastic. And then one of them's actually made with some type of metal. I think the real version is actually real hardcore titanium metal. But yeah, I was using the plastic ones to punch through everything, and then they kept breaking because I was going so hard, and they're like, "Yeah, stop hitting it so hard." That's how it goes. I don't know. I know one speed.
Vin is up in zero G, and Donnie Yen is up in zero G, but the rest of the cast is down below. There's a big shootout fight. All kinds of explosions, people on fire, Tony Jaa fighting all at the same time.
Advisors were very, very particular. They wanted everything to look real. They were very anal about it. A pain in the ass, you could say, but I understand they're trying to make it look legit.
Deepika and Ruby Rose, well, in that sequence too, is probably, I think, their coolest sequence, because they actually do a gun battle together. So they literally do a whole dance while they're taking out all these guys. So that was pretty fantastic for them.